Bruchim Habayim, a night to celebrate a great man, one man and his family, who changed the Jewish world, as Rabbi Farhi told us, here in the United States and all over the world where help was needed. In less than 24 hours, God willing, we will be lighting the first Ner of Hanukkah, the holiday of miracles, the holidays of Hallel, the Hoda'ah, of praiseworthy and thanksgiving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to God, for miracles that happened a long time ago. And yet, there are two rabbinic holidays that we celebrate to this very day. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it must have been so epic and so relevant, because believe me, I've led many trips to Israel. Just getting 30 Jews to decide what they want for dinner, falafel or shawarma or chalavi, is a big, big deal. Getting every Jew in the entire world for all of history to keep the same holiday, now that's impressive, my friends. Must have been such an epic event that happened thousands of years ago in Yerushalayim, on Har Habayit, on the Makom Mikdash, my friends, that we still feel the ripples of that event, B'yam Mahem, B'zman Hazeh, because this is the time, and that's where we are, my friends. You know, when I was growing up, there was a campaign in the 1980s. There was a big problem of young people taking drugs. To be honest, there's still a problem of young people taking drugs, but for most people it's not a problem. And they came out with a campaign, and this campaign was, the government put so much money into it. Here in America, I know, in England where I grew up, and the campaign was called Just Say No. I'm dating myself. But it was called the Just Say No campaign. And the idea was very simple. If your kids want to take drugs, just say no. And for the hundreds of millions of dollars they poured into this campaign, it is considered to be one of the biggest failures in the quote-unquote war on drugs. Why? Why did it fail so badly? And he discovered, for one reason. Because when you tell a child, just say no, the child wants to hear, why? Why should I say no? And that's where the parents and the government failed. Because it's not enough just to say no, they discovered. People need to know why. Give me an alternative. Give me meaning. Give me values. Give me some outlook, some mission, some vision of what you want me to be. Hanukkah, my friends, is all about the vision that the rabbis in those days knew the Jewish people would need after this event. Because this, the Hanukkah miracle, of which there's two, the miracle of the war and the miracle of the oil, was all about creating continual light in the darkness that was going to be Galut, exile, that we, the Jewish people, I think we all realize this year, 2020, are still in. And even though they were in Israel at that time and took control of Eretz Yisrael, even though the Greeks were there under Antiochus IV, who outlawed many mitzvot and brought great darkness to the Jewish people with his decrees, it was Galut. And although we have Baruch Hashem, the land of Israel today, it's still Galut. The darkness, my friends, is still with us. And the Hanukkah miracle was the last open miracle, the last Nes Nigla that our Jewish people experienced. At that point, the Jewish world broke down and there were no more miracles. Closed, hidden miracles? Yeah, plenty. Everyone can experience and describe a miracle that happened to them and a family member, a shidduch, a family, a school, a job, parnasah. We all feel a little bit of that. But that's not enough. We don't just want that, my friends. We want open miracles. You see, there's two ways that Mashiach, the final Redeemer for the Jewish people, can come. One is like an ani, like a poor person, says the Navi, says the prophet, riding on a chamor, on a donkey. non-miraculous, mundane, not too exciting, no thunder, no lightning. That's one way. But there's another way which is much more exciting. And that's like a kochav, like a star, flying across the sky with great open miracles. That's what we want. We don't want the mundane. We've had enough of just simple, poor on a donkey, barely making our way back to our home, back to Israel, back to Hashem, God. We've had enough of that. We want the exciting stuff. We want the Pesach miracles, and we definitely want the Hanukkah miracles. You know, we just passed the Shloshim of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, one of my mentors, someone I love very dearly. And I watched, for the past 30 days, I binged watched a lot of the stuff of his online. And he gave a TED talk, which you should know. For any rabbi, whether they admit it or not, giving a TED talk is the holy grail. There's nothing better than giving the opportunity to give a TED talk. And he was of that caliber, and he did a great job. But he opened up with a beautiful idea, which I heard him say live previously. He said, you walk into any store, or today go online and type in self-help books. Self-help books. How many come up? Thousands. Thousands and thousands of people have written books that fall under self-help. Thousands. And yet, we still feel as though society, our communities, broken, fractured. Now, if thousands have written the books, we can assume hopefully they've found their own self-help, not necessarily. And the people who've read all these books have also found tremendous self-help. But we know that's not true either. And he said because they're getting it wrong. You see, it's not about self-help. It's about other people help. You've got to flip it around, my friends. It's not about us. It's about bringing light to other people. And maybe that's why we're failing as a society. Because it's all about me, me, me. He made a joke, which by the way got international press, and he was condemned for it. But it was a joke. You've got to know Rabbi and our terrible jokes. He said that's why Apple is so popular. It's the iPhone, the iPad, the iWatch. It's me, me, me. It's got to be the other person. Eventually, the headlines of the international press, Rabbi Sachs, Lord, goes against Apple. I don't think he was making a statement against Apple. I saw him using an iPhone, but the idea is true. It's emet is emet. This me, me, me self-help. How about other people? How about turning the candle onto them? You know, the Hanukkah miracle happened on the menorah. And the menorah was situated on a mountain called Mount Moriah in the Beit HaMikdash. And I mentioned before that the windows of the Beit HaMikdash, says the Gemara, were different from all other windows. Good thing for Pesach. Why are the windows of the Beit HaMikdash different from all other windows? I'll tell you why. See, in those days, the windows were slots in the wall. And they were designed in a way that wide on the outside, narrow on the inside, so that the light, or maybe the opposite, but the light would be captured from the outside and brought inside. But the windows of the Beit HaMikdash, my friends, were inverted, so that the light from the inside would shine out to the outside. What light is inside that you want to shine outside? That's the menorah. Because they wanted Jews to walk around Yerushalayim, and on a clear day further out, and they're feeling low, and feeling depressed. And at this point of history, the Greeks had overtaken all of Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim. And you're feeling despondent, and you would look up, and suddenly you would see a light coming. That's my Batman beacon. I just made that up. I feel good. That's the sign in the sky that's going to bring me back. It's going to hold me close. I have a purpose. I have a mission. It's not about me. It's about everyone else. You know what Hanukkah is about? This is what I think. And it's occurred to me today. It's all about one, isn't it? It's one family. It's interesting, right? It's not a whole nation like Pesach. It's one family with one father and one son that stood up, who went into one Beit HaMikdash and fought against the Greeks with one menorah, and they found one cruse of oil. That, my friends, is what it's all about. The power of one person. Now, when I was a kid, I used to picture, you used to get these comic books I used to read, and they would always depict the Jewish Maccabees as ripped, muscle, you know what I'm saying, with swords on their backs, sweat and oil all over their bodies. They weren't. They're a bunch of yeshiva boys who pretty much didn't know how to fight, but had to learn. It was like guerrilla warfare. A small family fighting off an entire Greek army. Were others involved? They were involved, but this family started it. And they were Kohanim. And the Kohanim didn't even own land. They couldn't even get fit doing agricultural work. They would just work in the Beit HaMikdash, teaching, learning, maybe killing a few animals in the Beit HaMikdash, but that was it. It's all about one. And one small change. One small change. I'll tell you something personal, if you don't mind, right now. We're dealing with a constant battle in my house. It's a constant battle which is, unfortunately, become a joke already. It's just so ridiculous and ongoing. And the fight in my house is between two philosophies. My wife's philosophy and my philosophy. And now the kids have jumped in on this as well. And it's starting to get ugly. And the fight is, and I'm being very serious, when the kids come home in the winter, they take off their coats. And there's a couch in my house as you walk in. And they take the jacket and they throw it on the couch, and then they obviously go to the kitchen and empty the entire fridge and eat everything in sight. Right? Man, woman, or child. And my wife goes mad with this. It drives her nuts. And so the big thing in the house is, come down now and put your coats on. Oh, Imma, I don't want to. And I'm like, just let them be. They're not bothering. It's a coat. It's not like your parents are lying there. Right? What's the big deal? And I'll be honest with you, my wife went away for a few days. She had a certain trip she had to go on. Actually, she didn't have to go, but she went. And I said to the kids, you know what? Just leave the coats there. I don't care. And they did. And for 3 days, it was madness. The coats were on the couch all night. But I've come around and I've sided with my wife. You know what the argument's about? Listen very carefully. This is so important. This is just one small example, but you should be able to resonate. It's something in your life you should pick up from this. It's not about coats or shoes or putting the milk back in the fridge, which is another disease in my house. It wasn't me, Abba. I didn't use it last. I don't care who used it last. Just put it back in the fridge. It's about chaos and order. That's what it's about. You know, I heard a speech, one of these, these end of college, have these speeches that they bring in, these big speakers, and some admiral came in and he spoke for 25 minutes at this graduation speech. And he stood there with all his regalia. You can watch it online. Beautiful suit and his hat looked perfect and clean. And he said, I'm going to give you the best advice you're going to get. And I was so excited. Advice from one of the great admirals in the US Navy. He said, every morning, make your bed. That was it, Dayenu. I was like, that's it. That's what I paid for. Aren't these people who sat there for 4 years and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for education, that's all they get? He was saying something, the same idea, my friends. It's chaos versus order. My wife is saying we cannot let things become chaotic. You know, the world, as we know it, according to Jewish thought, lasts 6,000 years. Now we are able, says the prophet Isaiah, to reduce that amount. There are two possible times that Mashiach can come. Be'ito, achishena. Be'ito means in its time, which is probably 6,000 years, because that's the maximum amount of time the world can exist as is. Don't worry, it's going to be much earlier than that. We're not going to last until we reach 6,000. We're at 5781. I give it 2-3 years and then we're done. Dayenu. But there's an achishena version, and that's to bring the redemption earlier. And that's in our hands. This is the galut, my friends. The final galut, exile, that we have the ability to expedite the redemption through our actions. In this case, the other galuts weren't like this. In this case, it's in our hands. You know, the 6,000 years, Chazal was divided into 3 groupings. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. The first 2,000, tohu vavohu, which basically means a wonderful, amazing chaos. The second 2,000 are Torah, and the last 2,000 are Yemot HaMashiach, which means any time the Mashiach was able to come. In other words, there's a beginning to world history, there's a middle, and there's an end. And it starts with chaos. What's the solution to chaos? Avraham Avinu. He comes along in the Jewish year 1948 and turns it around. And in his lifetime, it turned from chaos into order. You can't appreciate order, which the Torah represents. Clarity. Torah Hioris, the light of Torah that brings us clarity. But only once you learn what to do can you get to the final phase. That's the 2,000 years that Mashiach can arrive in. Chaos is what destroys us. The lack of clarity. The lack of helping other people. Small acts. Very small. Sometimes personal. That's what we've got to be dealing with. You know, I've spent 6 trips in Auschwitz. And on a few of them we took a Holocaust survivor with us. You know what made Auschwitz so bad? Obviously the killing. Obviously. And the torture and deprivation, but there was something much worse. There was something more insidious. And that was, it had the film of order on it every day, lining up, everyone dressed the same way, taking numbers. You had to know where you were, what your job was. And yet inside the order was absolute insanity. It was a madhouse. Literally a madhouse. The capos, I didn't realize, were taken from crazy jails and mental institutions. You had literally the inmates running the mental asylum. That was the worst part, they say. The mental infliction that was put upon. They say the same about Egypt. Mizrahi was hard slavery, but they gave jobs that didn't fit the people who were doing it. Life, my friends, the challenge that is life is chaos. And what we, the Jewish people, have been tasked to do, and the Maccabees were hinting this to us, was to bring order and clarity. And the symbol of that is the menorah. The light of the menorah is the signal of clarity that we, the Jewish people, bring to the world through the Torah. We go from chaos to order, which is Torah, and that ends up, my friends, with redemption. And it's small stuff. You know, I think I mentioned this last year. I apologize if I did. We have 2 non-Jewish people who've managed not to sell their houses to the Jews in my neighborhood. It's unbelievable. They're nice people. When Christmas comes around, which obviously falls around the same time as Hanukkah, they turn on the Christmas lights. There's so much electricity that's used to power these globes and reindeers and lights that when they turn it on, all the lights in the neighborhood start to flicker. That's how much electricity they use. And I feel embarrassed. There we are. Will be tomorrow night. Click. One little candle. Right, there it goes. Right, he's got half of some nuclear plant somewhere that's giving energy to his house, and we got a little can. You know what? We don't need that. We don't need the snow globes. We don't need the reindeer and the Santa Claus. We need a little light in the window. Pirsuminisa. If you want it, it's here. But one small thing, and I mean this. You know, I get emails every day, Instagram. Well, I get messages every day. I'm the most contactable rabbi, and I don't have a social life. So people write to me. I think they know that. Now, a lot of the emails I just don't even get to look at because I know people who are sending them are insane. And believe me, there's a lot of crazy people out there. And there's a lot of people who are good people who are going through crazy times. And then some people just write me the strangest things. A guy writes me yesterday, and he says, "Rabbi, can you help me?" Guy I hadn't seen in a long time. He said, "I'm looking for a babysitter." I'm not kidding you. My first reaction was, "I'm a rabbi, not a babysitting agency. What do you want from me?" I'm not kidding you at all. And I thought to myself, you know what? Lawrence, get a grip. That's your ego talking. So, happens to be I know a lot of students of mine at Yeshiva University, girls downtown. So I sent it out. He wrote back 5 hours later, goes, "I don't know what you did, but I have like 45 people ready to be a babysitter for me." I said, "I feel good." Right? It was small. It's one little light. If you want to bring order, when I was younger and I started, when every rabbi begins, they'll tell you the same thing. I wanted to change the world. We all do. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Maybe a few people who we know will become so famous, successful, or change millions of people's lives. Me, I'm not that well known. I'm not that famous. A few people know me. I do a little bit over here. Dayenu. They say the Chofetz Chaim wanted so much to change the world. He said, I became a rabbi to change the world. I tried, didn't work. I said, let me try Poland. Didn't work. Let me try Reuven, where I'm from. Didn't work. Let me change my family. I couldn't change them either. Let me change myself. I'll do a few things. I'll write some books. Ended up changing his family, changing Reuven, changing all of Poland. And the Jewish people to this day all study his books. Sephardim, Ashkenazim. Who doesn't study the works? Right? Any yeshiva boy or girl has glanced at least, but learned in more detail the work of the Chafetz Chaim. It takes one little light, one small change. Our job, 2020, 5781 and onwards, my friends, listen to me. I'm not an expert, I'm not a genius, but what I know. It's to bring a little bit of light. And what I mean by that is a small change. Don't go big. Small little things. We're fighting against a lot. The Rambam says, and we'll finish with this, I apologize for going too far, Rabbi Farhi, Mechila. But the Rambam tells us, before Mashiach comes, you're going to see a number of changes. Some positive, some negative. The breakdown of society, we know the Mishnah tells us, but one of the worst things we're going to deal with is atheism. There's going to be a wave of atheism, he says, when he wrote to the Jews of Yemen. In his letter, Igeret Teman, he says a wave of atheism, but don't worry. There's going to be a few pockets of truth, a few areas of light. You're going to have to find the light. You're going to have to go and look for it. And he quotes the prophet Daniel, who's one of the few people who actually knew the date when Mashiach would come. He didn't reveal it, so don't come to me with your questions. No one was allowed to, but he knew. And Daniel said, this is going to be the problem at the end of days. 50, 60 years ago, you said you believed in God. You were cool. I mean, okay, maybe other religions wanted to kill us for not believing in their God. But the fact you believed in God was a respected thing. Everyone believed in God. Right? They just killed you for not believing in their God. But now you say you're a ma'amin, you believe in Hashem. Now you say you believe in Shabbat, kosher. Like, come on, dude, it's 2020. Get a grip. I'm in love with her. Why can't I marry her? Okay, she doesn't come from my family, my nation, my religion, whatever. We're in love. It's all about me. It's not self-help, my friends. It's others' help. Take the light, put it in your proverbial window, and send it out. Because we have a machloket, Hillel and Shammai. Shammai says 8 lights down to 1. You've heard this before. Hillel, who the halacha goes by, says, no, start Hanukkah night 1. 1 candle, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, and 8. What's this machloket all about? There's a lot going on over here. A lot. But I'll tell you the basics. Shammai came from a theory of just send out a lot of light, but eventually you're going to have to cut away. We'll end up with 1. 1 guy in the yeshiva is going to make it work for us. 1 rabbi, 1 family. And when Mashiach comes, the halacha is going to follow Beit Shammai. But we're not in the world of Beit Shammai, we're in the world of Beit Hillel. And Hillel told us something unbelievable. That 1 is good. But if I attach my light to your light, now we have 2. And in a few days, we'll have 3, each one bringing their own light. And that's, my friends, going to be the build-up to Mashiach. And then we're going to flip to Shammai. How? Do not ask me, that's above my pay grade. But that's what's going to happen. That's the emet. Small changes, small movements. Taking chaos, because we are in chaos. That's what the Nazis brought to the world, the Romans, the Greeks. They loved order, but they loved the chaos that was underneath it all. We, the Jewish people, are looking for order in our lives. That comes through light. That comes through Torah, Torah Bichtav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Gemara too. Not enough just to be a Bible scholar. And bringing order to the world through our light of Chesed is going to make the world a much brighter place. It just takes 1. Chag Sameach, my friends. Thank you all very, very much. Have a wonderful Chanukah.